We pivot to a topic that I know you find sort of laborious at this point.
That's a good word.
Which is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This ETF was approved just about a week ago now, and I think a lot of people are trying to understand what it ultimately means. JPMorgan, I imagine if you were a client of JPMorgan, you could call your broker and say, "Get me some of this ETF." What are you telling your brokers to tell them back when they make that call?
Yeah. So this is an important thing. This is the last time I've ever talked about this in CNBC, okay? So help me God. Blockchain is real. It's a technology. We use it. It's going to move money. It's going to move data. It's efficient. We've been talking about that for 12 years, too, and it's very small, okay? So I think we've wasted too many words in that. Cryptocurrencies, there are two types. There's a cryptocurrency which might actually do something. Think of a cryptocurrency as an embedded smart contract in it, and that we can use it to buy and sell real estate and move data. That may have value.
The idea of tokenizing things.
Tokenizing things that you do something with. And then there's one which does nothing. I call it the pet rock, the Bitcoin or something like that. And so on the Bitcoin, there's, first of all, and I'm not trying to make a joke here. There are use cases, AML, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, sex trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe $50, $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people train among themselves. So
speculate.
Yeah. Now my last statement, the last time I ever talk about Bitcoin, is I defend your right to do Bitcoin. I think, it's okay. I don't want to tell you what to do. So my personal advice would be don't get involved. But I don't want to tell any one of you what to do. It's a free country.
What do you make of the other firms, the BlackRocks of the world that obviously, and Larry Fink changed his view of this, obviously. Yeah. And maybe he changed his view because you think he genuinely believes in Bitcoin or believed it because he thinks that there's a marketplace for it and he wants to be part of that market. But what do you think of there's about a dozen big financial companies, Fidelity included.
Number one, I don't care. So just please stop talking about this shit. And I don't know what he would say about blockchain versus currencies that do something versus Bitcoin that does nothing. And maybe that's not different than me. But, this is what makes a market. People have opinions. This is the last time I'm ever going to state my opinion.
Gold really doesn't do anything either.
Yeah, but gold's limited in supply.
So is Bitcoin.
And it's been used. So you think so, huh?
I do.
I think there's a good chance that when we get to that 20 million Bitcoins,
they go to 42.
No, that Satoshi's going to come on there, laugh hysterically, go quiet, all Bitcoin's going to be erased.
I think, man.
How the hell do you know it's going to stop at 21? I've never met one person who told me they know for a fact they take that
mathematically, it can't happen because by the last one will be mined in 2150, and it gets harder and harder every time there's another halving. But Jamie, looking back over,
you guys do what you want, I'll do what I want.
As for gold, you can the 6 characteristics that make gold valuable for 4,000 years. They're all present in Bitcoin. That's all I'll say. And I love you, and I don't want to. And I also don't want to be a.
Joe, you may be right.
Yeah.
I don't own gold either, so okay.
That's what I mean.
Couple of quick final questions.
I like to own things that pay me incomes. It doesn't cost money to carry. Anyway, and it costs money to carry Bitcoin, too, by the way.
We've talked a lot about commercial real estate here in Davos. There was a big 60 Minutes piece on Sunday.
But I think there's another risk to Bitcoin. If you can't solve the bad use cases, the government's probably going to have to close it down. So that
the thing about the money laundering, you can look at, here's the number was 20,000, I think, for U.S. dollars in money laundering, and it was 35 for how much is done with Bitcoin. So at this point, the dominant
ransomware is 20 to 30 billion we know about.
Historically, the dominant currency for money laundering has been U.S.
I understand.
Okay.
Quickly, commercial real estate.
Yeah.
Do you have a take? We've been talking to a number of investors who've been sitting here talking about what it means to the debt markets, what it means to some of the smaller banks. Obviously, you have a big building going up, by the way, in New York. But the 3-day week, what that's going to mean longer term.
Yeah. So, first of all, I think the value of old financial assets in America is like $140 trillion. Commercial office real estate is like $1.2 trillion.
Okay.
$600 billion on bank books. A lot of that is corporate owned and stuff like that. Let me divide into 3 pieces. If we have a soft landing, which is possible, and rates don't go higher, which is possible, it'll be a small problem. If we have a hard landing and rates don't go higher, it'll be a bigger problem. And if we have a hard landing with higher rates, which I still think is possible, it'll be a bigger problem.
Because inflation goes up even with
interest rates are like cosmological constant. Yeah. Anything which has cash flows is worth less. And obviously, if there's a recession, less need for space and all the things that happen in recession and stuff like that. So, and I don't know how it's going to affect. Work from home is a whole different thing. Our building's unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, walk by.
It's going up quick.
Yeah. You know what I love about you, James, and I've told you this many times. You said one time, I'm just barely a Democrat. Today, all the things you said about MAGA, what you're saying is really to try to help the Democratic Party, because it's tough love is what you're using. You are not MAGA. You're not going to turn into a Republican, I don't think. But you realize...
I always say I have a Democratic heart and a Republican brain.
Exactly.
And I do think more and more the Republicans... that the Democrats have big hearts and very small brains. They should be a little more thoughtful about policy and how things work.
If on the front end, all of the things you're doing to try and help people actually on the back end end up hurting them, you need to cop to that someday, eventually. And they don't.
I'll come confess here if that...
No, not you. I'm saying the Democratic Party. No, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party needs to say, look, we try all these things and we made things worse. So, at least cop to it.
I just also want to point, when I go to D.C. all the time, remember, we spend a lot of time on, I will call the wing nuts. There are a lot of centrist Republicans, Democrats, who, if they sat here, you'd have...
It might be a majority. It might be 80%.
It might be...
I don't understand.
Well, partially, you guys invite the wing nuts on more.
No, we invite the
not you guys. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about like CNN and
just
Fox
gave you a half hour.
Yeah, I'm going to start charging you guys, by the way.